various stories. And then I'll try to say what does this story actually mean with respect to cryptology. Okay, the first story I start with is that maybe many of you have read it. I read it in my high school when I was in class 8 or class 9. This is a story of Sherlock Holmes about the name of the story, I guess, the dancing figures. So I'll tell you the story if you didn't read it. For the people who have read it, just bear with me for next 2-3 minutes. So in UK, there was a criminal. So he was very confident that he could not be caught. So he would do a crime and leave a sequence of dancing postures, explaining maybe why he did it, who is it, and so on and so forth. The police there is, we call it Scotland Yard. They come to the place and they find no clue absolutely except for this sequence of dancing postures. Then next week, again another crime happens. Police comes and only finds a sequence of dancing figures or dancing postures. And absolutely no other clue. The criminal is very smart. So time goes by. The police could not find the criminal. So finally they call the detective, Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes comes and the police explain to him that, well, this is what we received, a good number of long sequences of dancing figures, but nothing beyond that, no other clue they could get. Then Sherlock Holmes thought, okay, let me look into these figures. The first thing he observed is that there are 26 different postures, 26 different dancing postures, dancing kind of figures. So immediately it stuck to this to his mind, or in his brain, that this number 26, something very, very special. What is the number 26? It's the number of letters in the English alphabet. So he thought maybe, I'm not very sure, but maybe this criminal is using the English language, but every letter is being replaced by a dancing postures. So A may be one of these 26, B may be one of the other 25, C may be one of the other 24, and so on and so forth. But he doesn't know which. So he's thinking that there could be what you call permutation. So he must be using a permutation from the set of letters A to Z to these 26 postures, which is a 1-1-on-2 correspondence. And he has chosen a particular one. And if I think of how many such permutations are there, see, for the first letter, there are 26 possibilities. For each of the choice of the first letter, for the second letter, I have got 25 possibilities. And for each of the choice of first and second letter, I have 24 choices for the third letter. So if you go on so forth, there are 26 times 25 times 24, blah, 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 up to 1. So there are 26 factorial such permutations. And the criminal must have used one of those 26 factorial. So if Sherlock Holmes had the time, energy, and methodology to try out all possible 26 factorial permutations, then in one of those he would succeed. What is there written behind this dancing postures? But 26 factorial is a huge number. So one cannot possibly try out all possible permutations. So does he give up? No. Now he looks into some other kind of properties of the English language. Now, I wish I was talking to you in person so I could ask you questions, but now I have to ask questions and I have to answer myself. And normally the students participate with my answers, and that's how my talk goes. But anyway, I can do it on this platform. So everybody knows, or if you know English a little bit, that in English, the letter E comes most often. I think E comes about 13-14% of the time. After E, this is T. T comes about 9-10%. Then A, then I, then O. So, and X, Z, they come very, very rarely. I think Z is most, I think X is most rarely, or Z is most rarely. They come very, very rarely. So he looked into all these dancing postures and he just tried to find out which postures appeared maximum number of times. And he figures out that a certain posture has come maximum times. And he thinks that this must be E. Okay, so he he just replaces all those postures by the letter E. Then the least ones must be Z and X. He puts X, Z and X. The next frequent one after E, we know it's T. So he looks into the
So I have
posture.
one doubt here. So I have one doubt here.
Yeah, please, please.
I'm sorry, I have unmuted myself, and
Sure, sure.
sir, you were telling just now that alphabets have the probability, like E comes this many times and T comes. So how can we compute this probability? Think what is the criteria? Yeah.
Normally, the linguist people, they have studied this already.
Okay.
You
Okay.
just take a newspaper.
Okay.
Okay, newspaper, just count the number of letters, each of the letters, how many letters is coming,
Okay.
and you will find
Okay.
that
Okay.
many
Okay.
ones there.
So
So
already the study and analysis part
it-
for this has been done. We
it does.
just have to. We are just using those results.
Yes. Yeah,
All
I'm not using this. Is the Sherlock Holmes is using. So
okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
I
Right.
did this story when I was in grade 8 or 9. That's
Okay.
way back in 70s. Okay.
Okay. Okay. We were not even born then, sir.
Yeah, you're wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
okay, so then he was replacing each of these postures by letters by just using what we call the frequency of these letters of these postures, and this is what is called a frequency attack. And he could actually get the entire sequence of postures converted to English, and then police could find the criminal. Okay, so why I tell this story? This I read in class 8. That time I didn't know cryptology. I don't think anybody knew cryptology. As a matter of fact, now it gives you a nice framework for cryptology, what is actually in the subject. So what are the steps here? So the criminal wants to make a statement, wants to communicate a statement to police or whoever it may be. But he doesn't want the police to understand. So what he does, what he wants to, what the actual text, we call it the plain text. Okay, but the criminal doesn't want to put the plain text so that the police understands immediately. So what he did, he used what we call an algorithm to convert the plain text, English letters, to what we call cipher text. Here in this case, the sequence of those dancing postures. Now this method is called encryption. Now how did he encrypt? So he chose a particular, he was replacing each of the letters by one of the dancing postures. Now there are 26 factorial such permutations. So he has chosen one particular one. Okay, using that particular permutation, he has used the algorithm of what is the algorithm for encryption? Use that particular permutation, and then following that, you change every letter to dancing posture. That is the algorithm. So this particular permutation, which is used in the algorithm to do the encryption, this is what we call the key. Now, you could use the same algorithm, but with a different permutation. Okay, and here the number of possible keys are 26 factorial. So that's the notion of key, that I've chosen some particular permutation which has been used for encryption. So that's what is called the key. And then how would you actually decrypt? If you knew the permutation, you could go back immediately. That's what is called decryption. But in this case, Sherlock Holmes didn't know the permutation. So he could not go back by using a simple decryption algorithm, that if I know the permutation, I can go back from dancing postures to letters. But he doesn't know. So what he was doing, he was trying to do a cryptanalytic attack. So what is his tool in this cryptanalytic attack? So without knowing the key, he possibly guessed the algorithm that he must be replacing the letters by dancing postures. But without knowing the key, he's trying to understand what could be the actual message, the plain text. So it's trying to identify the plain text from the cipher text without knowing the key. Okay, so what he did what we call, I give this example, what we call a frequency attack. This is one of the very initial form of cryptanalytic attack. What we call in plain language, breaking a code. So this is something that breaking the code. So he was successful to break the code or attack this encryption system using a very, very easy statistical property of the language. Okay, this is called attack. So this story gives you the whole framework of cryptology. Plain text, encryption, produce ciphertext. Encryption uses a key. Then from ciphertext, you use a decryption algorithm using the same key or the different key, will come later on, and then get the plain text back. This is called decryption. Now, if you don't know the key, then if you still can find out the plain from the ciphertext, that is what I call an attack or cryptanalytic attack. Now, this gives you the entire framework of cryptology. Okay, my next story. So, the first story. And I think this is okay if somebody wants to ask a question in between. You can unmute and ask me a question. I think I'm fine with that. Okay, so my next story. So this is what I did an experiment when I was in ministry as a warden. You have to listen to this experiment very carefully. So when at one point of time, I was made the warden of the hostels. Now, all of you are students. Many of you live in the hostels. In the government hostels, now even smoking is not permitted, but in our time smoking was permitted, but drinking was strictly prohibited. So you could not drink alcohol. Well, you could drink Coke, Thumbs Up, or water, fruit juice, but you couldn't drink alcohol. So when I was young, I used to play football with my students in the hostel. And I was a warden, and I know that disciplining the students is a very difficult job. And the students don't like us to discipline them. So I didn't bother disciplining them. So by and large, if the things run smooth, I don't get into the whole system. And if you want to get into, try to teach lesson, discipline the students, it might become just go the opposite way. So I didn't try to discipline them much, but generally the hostel runs. If there's no issue, things are fine. But one day, after my football game with the students, one student told, in Kolkata we call Dada, in a good sense, we call Bimal Da. There is a problem in the hostels, both boys and girls hostel. In the evening, they drink alcohol. Okay, so is that so? Yes, Bimal Da. A lot of students drink alcohol in the hostel. And then, even though I don't like to discipline them, but this is against the government norm, and I'm sitting on the other side of the fence, I have to observe that the government norms are followed. So I had to do some inquiry. So what is the inquiry? First, I want to find out what percentage of my students actually are involved in this habit. If it is 10, 15, I don't really care. Because even in our time, when I was hostel, I remember we were 28 in the class, and 3 of them had the habit of drinking alcohol. Well, of course, hiding, not publicly. So if you think 3 out of 28 is a little more than 10%. So if it is 10, 15%, I don't really care. Because there's some aberration in life that makes life also more beautiful. Everybody would follow the same rule exactly the same way. That's not the human life. But if it becomes 30, 40%, then I have to get worried. So how do I know that? So I have to make an inquiry and find out what is this percentage? Is it 10, 15 or is it 30, 40 or even more? If it's 10, 15, I won't bother. If it's 30, 40, I have to do some, take some remedial action. How do I find it? The best way could be, the easiest way could be, I ask the student, hey, do you drink alcohol in the hostel? And if all the students agree to cooperate with me and they say yes or no, then I can find out. Say maybe I have 400 students and 200 of them told that yes, we drink alcohol. So the very simple estimate, 50% of my students do drink alcohol. But you can imagine that people are not going to agree with me. First, if I ask this to a girl student, she might get very angry. She will start, don't ask me all these nonsense questions. She's right. This is breach of privacy. You cannot ask me such private questions. So if the boy or girl becomes a little more polite, they may say, sir, I don't think we want to discuss this point with you. Somebody is further polite, he or she may say, I'll give an answer, yes or no. But can I trust the answer? Any basic intuition would say that I can't trust the answer. So asking questions, I cannot really get answer. And I cannot really find out what percentage of my students are taking alcohol. Because what's the issue here? Privacy. Because the students think that whether they drink or not, that's a very private habit of him or her, and they don't want to divulge this to anybody, at least to the teachers, to the warden. So privacy is a very, very important issue. But mind that I don't really want to get whether a particular student drinks or not. I want to compute what percentage of my students take alcohol. So this is two different things. So I want to do certain computation on the private data. So can I do this keeping the privacy? Okay, so this is what is called now very, very, very popular this thing, privacy preserving computation. So everybody's answer is yes or no, whether they drink or not, but they won't tell it. I want to find out how many yeses are there altogether. What percentage of the yes are there? I want to compute that, but without knowing each one of the yes or no. This is what is called privacy preserving, and we have to maintain some kind of anonymity. That from the answer, I won't be able to guess. There's a lot of issues here. Now, this is a very important subject today, privacy preserving computation. Or you would say data anonymization, data obfuscation, all this come under the same thing. It basically have to handle the privacy. We have to actually respect the privacy issue of every citizen, every student, and yet, can I do certain computation? Okay, so this is my point. So I thought, certain things I learned in my statistics courses when I was doing my BStat or undergraduate statistics at ISI. So I tried to apply one of this technique. So I told students, okay, let's play a game. Okay, and this is one of the fundamental algorithms for privacy preserving computation. So I told students, I put two questions. Question number one, do you drink alcohol in the hostel? The answer is going to be yes or no. I put a second question. Listen very carefully, very naive but very powerful question. You would see later on. Are you born between January 1 and June 30? Are you born between January 1 and June 30? Okay, answer is again yes or no. And it is a very, very naive question. Now I tell the students, okay, you take a coin and toss it, hopefully unbiased. I don't know how to get an unbiased coin though, but hopefully unbiased. You toss a coin. If it is head, you answer first question. If it is tail, you answer second question. Okay, and you answer just Y or N. Y for yes, N for no. Put it on a piece of paper, fold it, fourfold, and leave it on my table. Okay, I can give a box like a ballot box. You put that into the box. Now, what does that? And you don't tell your output of your toss to anybody. You don't tell it to anybody. So what are the students thinking? Are the answers anonymous? Of course, because it comes into ballot. I don't know who has put what. And um, even if I get into uh, this small slips where you write Y or N in capital, it will be difficult to understand one's handwriting from this capital one letter. But even if I am very expert in handwriting and I find that this is from this boy of in the hostel, I don't know which question you have answered. Right? I don't know which question you have answered, first or second. It all depends on the outcome of your toss. So from this, when you submit this piece of papers folded and leave it on my table or the box, there is no way I can know whether a particular boy or a girl has this habit or not. Agreed? So the students feel very comfortable, and then I appeal to them. Now that you may be assured that your privacy is being 100% protected, now would you play the game fairly with me? And so they do some back calculation at the back of their mind, and they agree. Yes, sir. Will you just play the game fairly? So I remember I'll change the number a little bit here. So, but similar numbers. So I had 400 students. So I got 400 slips back on my table, and I got 134 yes. 400 responses and 134 yes. Okay, well, let me analyze this one. So of the 400 who answered, who played the game, if it is head, they answered question 1. If it is tail, they answered question 2. So how many would answer question 1 and how many would answer question 2? Assuming the coin is fair or unmatched, half of. So 200 will answer first question and 200 will answer second question. Look at the second question. Okay. Are you born between January 1 and June 30? So of the 200 who answered second question, half of them will answer yes. So of those 200, 100 would answer yes. So I have got 134 yes. 100 yes question. Yes. Any question? So 100 of them answered yes to the second question. So other 34, it must have come from the first question. So 200 of my students answered 34 yes. So percentage of my students who have this habit of drinking alcohol is 17%. 234 yes. So 17% of my students actually drink alcohol. So I do this computation. Fair enough. Well, this is probabilistic or statistical, so there could be some error attached to it, but I can even compute the error. So my answer would be that about 17% of my students do have this habit. Now, if you just check this entire methodology, I have no way to know your particular private information, but I'm still doing some computation. So this is what is preserving. In fact, see, now I'm with the government of India, and I'm supposed to be the custodian of the government data. I have impressed the government that we must put all government information or public information in the public domain, which doesn't affect the national security. That's a different thing. But if some information doesn't bother or doesn't affect national security, we should put every information, including the financial information, on the public domain. But then we have to ensure the privacy. So we are in a big project with the government. The government. So I have advised them. The government has accepted this. The government has in a big project. They are having interministerial meeting to find out a strategy for anonymization, obfuscation. Anonymization means nobody can understand whose data this one is. Obfuscation, even if you understand this is this person, you don't know what the value. From the value, you don't know what is the actual value. Okay, so here putting all these answers in a box, you have anonymized the persons. You don't know who answered which one. But even if you find out this answer belongs to this person, you don't know from what is the data, what is the actual answer. This is what is called obfuscation. So we have to do anonymization, we do obfuscation, and then we give a set of algorithms that is capable of computing certain things which are of importance to the government or to the public or to general audience. Now this is a huge project government has taken up. Probably some company will implement it, but this is being studied in details, and this is something which pertains to my this basic story. So my this story has all the ingredients of what the government may put into effect as a policy. Okay, this is my second story. My third story. My third story is it goes back a little, I think, a few years back. You know what are bank lockers? Bank lockers. I have a bank locker. I didn't know what is a bank locker before I got married. But after I get married, my wife brings some jewelry from her parents, and which she will never wear for sure. So we put this into a bank locker just to make it protected. How does the locker work? In the locker, there are two holes with two different keys. One key is kept with me, one key is kept with the bank. Okay, and if you put both the keys together and turn it to the right together, then the locker opens. Put any other key, it won't open. Put one key, it doesn't open. Put two keys but turn in different time point of time, it won't open. So this is what is called somewhat secured, and this is a trusted environment. We accept the bank is very safe. But I read on the newspaper some court case that one couple one day they went to the bank, went to the locker, and found that uh, the locker is empty. They get very upset. They complain to the bank manager that our locker is empty. And the manager says, what do I do? Because I could not open the locker. So there's no point of taking any complaint. So maybe the locker was empty. Okay, so the bank manager doesn't take a complaint. So they go to police. So police comes for investigation. And police actually see the bank manager with his key cannot open this locker. So police gets happy and closes the case. He says, no, the bank did not do anything foul. So case is dismissed. The complaint is dismissed. So they go to the court. Now the court judge, the judge of in this for this case, made a different verdict. It's not any technical. The judge asked this couple, now, make a list of articles that you're putting inside the locker and handed over a copy to the bank. They said no, because there is no such provision. He said then, if the verdict goes in favor of you, everybody will go and empty the locker and tell the bank that I had 5 crore rupees of worth jewelry, and bank has stolen it. So since you did not make a list of articles which the bank verified and bank had a copy, such a case cannot go in favor of you. The case goes in favor of the bank. So the court gave a verdict that the bank is not responsible, so the case is dismissed. So the couple loses. Even if I was the judge, I would have given the same verdict. I think any of you would have given the same verdict. He said it, and then I started thinking, since we do cryptology, blah, 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 something came into my mind. I immediately ran to my bank where I have the locker. We have a PNB bank close to our ISI where I have my locker. I went and met the manager. So I told him, how secure I am in the locker. said, absolutely secure. I told, when I was in school or in the college hostel, I used to lose my keys. And then there will be some expert. There's an old person sitting outside our hostel campus. I would call him. He will come with with some pudding, and he will put the pudding inside that key, take impression of the key of this lock, and then he'll give me a key in 10 minutes. So my key could be constructed from this lock. So you could have done it. You can do it. You say, no, these things are not, pudding cannot get impression on that one. That you are telling, but is there a proof that my key cannot be duplicated? I want a proof. He said, how, you are all professors ask me all these nonsense questions. How can I give a proof? I can demonstrate. I don't know, I need a proof. And then I asked him a second question, which, actually put him on the floor. I told, what you have demonstrated me is that my key and your key jointly opens this locker. But there could be another pair which could open it. So do you have a proof that on earth there do not exist another pair which can open? Yes.
Any question, participants? So no questions. You may proceed. Hello, sir.
Sir, you are mute.
Sir, you are on mute. So please unmute.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's fine. So
Yes, sir. Yes.
you can understand my concern that the bank has shown to me that my first question was that how do you have proof that my key cannot be duplicated? And he doesn't have proof. Number two, all they have shown to me that my key and the bank key can open the locker. But there could be another pair of key which could open the locker. So I said, do you have a proof that there do not exist another pair of keys which can open this locker, like a mathematical theorem? And the manager gets almost on the floor. He says, sir, please excuse me, I can't answer all these questions. So I came and I wrote an article on Times of India about my concerns about the security of the lockers. Again, you see that I didn't question that they are not honest. I told them they're probably honest. But here are my concerns. The bank has to establish to me that my concerns are not really worthwhile. These are all wrong concerns. Okay, so I write an article, and the next day, morning, the paper comes in the morning. First, I get a phone call from the CVC, in the Central Vigilance Commission. So officer calls me, tells, sir, I have read your article. So are you telling that these are all insecure, these lockers? I told, no, please don't misunderstand me. I never said these are insecure. I told, I want a proof of security. Okay, sir, we get it. So this one doesn't have proof. I don't know whether they have to give me a proof of security. Then I get a phone call from Reserve Bank of India. He says, sir, are you proposing that we replace all the lockers? They are not safe. I told, I did not make such a statement that you replace the lockers and they're unsafe. All I wanted is that you have to make it, you have to give me a proof of security. So this is what you learn in your cryptology next link. So you propose a system of communication, you propose a system of storage, you propose a system of protecting certain things. And what we insist that when you propose a system, propose an algorithm, you have to give me a proof of security that yes, this is secured. Okay, this is the point. I think it will come into your coming lectures that they will try to give a notion of what is meant by proof of security. You need a proof of security. Now here let me tell you an example. How could I solve this locker problem? Okay. So I say, okay, you do one thing. First thing, you make this locker digital. So that means if you enter a certain password, that means you enter a certain binary sequence, the locker will open. Otherwise, not. Okay, that's a digital lock. So you have to type in some password, meaning sequence of zeros and ones, and if it gets the right input, the locker will open. So to do, you think of that. That is the key. That sequence zeros and ones. Break this into two halves. So it could be 64-bit key. So you could make it 32 first 32-bit, next 32 bits. Now these 32 bits can be treated as an integer or a real number, whatever it may be, depending on how we represent. The next 32 bit is another number. Okay. Now we think of a straight line whose gradient is the first part and the intercept is the second part. So you can write down an equation of a straight line whose gradient will be the left part of the key and intercept will be the right part of the key. Okay. And then from that line, you pick 2 points randomly. But you may pick up 2 points randomly, you get the XY coordinate which belong to that line. So if it's a line, you just blindly just put your hand on there and pick up 2 points from that line. And observe what is the X and Y coordinate. And you give one point to me. That means the XY coordinate of that point. And you give the other point to the manager, XY coordinate. So what is my algorithm now? I come to the locker. I type in my XY coordinate. That's my password. The bank types in the bank's XY coordinate. Okay. And then there will be an app or a software which will compute. From the 2 points, you can compute the intercept as well as the gradient of the straight line. You compute it, and then you can actually get the key. The left part is the gradient, right part is the intercept. It's computed. That is inserted to the locker, and the locker opens. Now, how can I forge this one? Any question, Rahul? Okay, so how can one forge it? If you can get another point from that line. So unless if this line is published anywhere, you cannot get a point on that line. And you cannot forge this system. So here I'm showing that forging to this system is equivalent to getting another point on the line.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, this is Devjit calling from Kolkata. Actually, I have a question, sir. Like, if we find another point, I mean the coordinates, how can we make sure that point lies in that line?
That's my question. So if you are an attacker, so if you're an attacker, you have to get 2 more points on that line, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
how do you get it? If I don't publish my line anywhere,
Yes, sir.
and if I destroy my line, once I give the 2 points, one to the manager, one to the customer, I destroy that line. I don't even
Yes,
keep
sir.
in the memory at all. So how to guess a point on that line?
Yes, that was my question, sir. Yeah.
Yes, that's my notion of security. So if I destroy the line, I created the line. I picked up 2 points. 1 point I gave it to the customer, 1 point I gave it to the manager. After that, destroy the line. Erase everything from the memory where I generated these 2 points. So now, how would one attack this system? They have to get, only way they can attack is if they get points from that line. And the line is not nowhere there. How do you get a point from the line? The probability of guessing a point which will belong to that line is very close to 0, almost 0. So that's my notion of security. I'll just add just one little point here. I tell very funnily that my wife tells that why do we have to share the same key? Okay, why I have a key, you have a separate key. So when I want, I will go there, and the manager would have his own key, and I can open the locker. And when you go there, you can open the locker. What does that mean? That if I say I am A, and my wife is B, and the manager is C. What she's asking, that a method or an algorithm where A and C can open the locker, B and C can open the locker. Me and my wife cannot. I need the manager. So only A and C and B and C can open. Can I find an algorithm? So I asked this question to some class 12 students. Okay, and one girl immediately answered. It was very easy. So I'll tell the solution, then I'll give you some questions on this. Okay, sir, you take a circle. Okay, circle has a center and points. Radius of the circle, that is the key. Radius is the key. And you center, you give it to the bank. And from the circle, you pick up 2 points from the circumference, 2 points randomly. You give 1 point to yourself, 1 point to your wife. So I have a point on the circumference. My wife has a point on the circumference. Manager has the center. And I destroy the circle equation altogether. Now, erase from the memory. So now if I go to the bank, I give a point from the circumference. Manager gives the center. I can compute the radius. That's the key. If my wife goes and she gives a point on the circumference and bank manager gives the center, can compute the radius. So we don't have to have the same key. And now can me and my wife open the locker? No, because from 2 points on the circumference, you cannot compute the radius. Our high school geometry. Can anyone attack the system? They have to get points from on the circle. If the circle center, everything is destroyed, how would one guess the center or any point on the circle? It's out of question. So that's the notion of security. And I probably have a much more formal definition using Shannon's entropy, but assuming I have no time, but I can give a formal proof that it is secured using Shannon's notion of information. Okay, so this was my third story. And I'll now tell you the last story, the fourth story. Now this domain is called secret sharing. The last thing is a very important thing now, proving your identity. This is very important now because we are more or less depending on cyber domain, electronic communication. Sometimes it's worthwhile to know that am I talking to Balu really? Am I talking to Balu? So there is now a new method or methodology called, it's a very new one, what you call zero knowledge protocol or zero knowledge proof. Zero, shunno. So zero knowledge proof. So I'll tell you what is meant by that. Again, I'll tell you 2 stories and then understand what is zero knowledge. Okay, so you assume I'm blind. You assume I'm blind. And I have 2 nieces. Actually, I do have 2 nieces. And when they are young, they used to fight with each other. And if I get a gift for one niece, I have to get the identical gift for the other niece. Okay. So I trust, say, Endeavor. I told Endeavor, get me 2 identical pens. Okay, get me 2 identical pens. So Endeavor gets me 2 identical pens. And I trust Endeavor. Endeavor says, sir, I know you trust me, but I still want to prove that I have got 2 identical pens. How does he prove? If I could see, I see that it's 2 identical. But Endeavor wants to prove. It's not that I don't trust him. Say, no, sir, I know you trust me, but still I want to prove to you that I have got 2 identical pens. So what Endeavor designs a game. He says, okay, sir, you hold, let me see if I've got 2 pens here. Let me see. Just 1 second. I don't have 2 pens. Okay, so suppose Endeavor gives me these two articles. They are not identical. This is a pen. This is my chashma, my glasses. So Endeavor puts Karan Singh as an adjudicator to play this game. Say, okay, you take these two articles in two hands, you watch it. This is my pen, this is my chashma. You take your hands at the back. Now you may interchange your hands or you may not interchange your hands. I'll request one of the students to unmute and play the game with me. One student, please unmute. Sakshi, or maybe you can
Yes,
unmute.
sir.
So you can play the game with me. Sakshi, let the students watch. So Indivar has given me these two articles. Which proves to me that these two are identical. So it says you take these two in your two hands, take the hands at the back, and then I may interchange my hands or I may not interchange my hands. So suppose it was like this, I take it at the back, I bring it here. Did I interchange, Sakshi?
No, sir.
No, yes, right. Did I interchange?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So I'm done. Now, why could you say that? If these two, since these two are distinct, you know immediately if I interchange my hands. Right. But if these two are identical, will you tell it?
No.
You have to basically guess.
No. In case
Basically
of
guess.
identical, it won't be possible to say if it was interchanged or not.
Yes. So you would be just guessing.
Yeah.
So if I play the game 10 times, okay, and every time I'm correct, what does it mean? They are not identical,
Not identical.
right?
Yes.
So in the verse says, let you and Karan Singh play the game 10 times. And if all the 10 times Karan is correct, that means they are not identical.
Not identical.
If Karan is wrong, even once, I'm sure that they are identical.
Identical.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is what is the crux of the zero knowledge. I'll tell you a second story. I don't know if do you play Sudoku. Do you play Sudoku?
No, sir.
You don't play Sudoku. Any student who plays Sudoku? Any student who plays Sudoku?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then students who play Sudoku will understand this example, but this is a very classical example. So in Sudoku, what do you do? Even for the others who don't play the game, I'll tell you the game. So we put a 9 by 9 square, 9 rows and 9 columns, and the designer will put some numbers between 1 and 9 into some of these small subsquares. Okay, you put some 1, 2, 3, 9 here, 2 here, 3, 1, 9 here, 7 here, 8. You fill it up with, but not all of them, a few of them. And then the game is that you are given this square and you have to fill up the empty subsquares with the numbers from 1 to 9 with 3 properties. That after you fill up, each row will have all the 9 digits. Each column will have all the 9 digits. And if you think of the subsquares, so if the 9 by 9 square, there is one 3 by 3 here, next 3 by 3, next 3 by 3, 3 by 3. So there are 9 3 by 3 subsquares. And each of these 9 3 by 3 subsquares will also have each of these digits 1 to 9. So you have to fill it up. You can fill it up like this, you win the game. You know, I've seen these young kids, college students, immediately get newspaper, they start solving the Sudoku. So now, let me assume that Karan Singh has solved this today's Sudoku, and he tells Indivar, I have solved this Sudoku. And Indivar says, Karan, I don't trust that that you have solved the today's Sudoku. Indivar says, I don't trust that you have done it. So if he has to, then Karan has to prove to him that he has solved the one. The best way is that he can show the solution. And Indivar can verify that the solutions are correct. Okay? But Karan doesn't want to show him the solution. Like I could not see, I was blind. Karan doesn't want to show him the solution, but yet Karan wants to prove that he has solved the Sudoku. Endeavor would be convinced that yes, he has solved it. But Karan will not show the solution. Okay, so how do they do it? So here's the method. So Karan will make another 81 slips of papers. 9 of them he writes 1, 9 of them he writes 2, 9 of them also 9. Then on his solution, if there is a say 3 here in the subsquare, he will cover it up with a 3. So from the top we don't see, there's a piece of paper where 3 write it and then cover it up with the 3. So each of the subsquares get covered up with the same number. But on the other side nothing written, so nobody would understand what is the inside. So on this Sudoku, he fills up with the additional piece of paper, meaning that in every small cell, if there is a number, the slip had the same number, but put upside down. You cannot see. So now, Karan would say, Endeavor, you tell me a row. Endeavor says third row. Then what he will do? He will pick up the slips from the third row. Okay? Put it in hand and then randomize. And then flip it and show it to Endeavor. So Endeavor can verify that all the 9 digits are there. But he doesn't know what order Karan picked it up. But anyway, Endeavor has to only verify that he has got all the 9 digits in the third row. So he gets happy. He may say, okay, now you think of a column. He says, okay, column number 7. So Karan will do the same thing on the 7th column. He will pick up those 9 slips, randomize, flip it and show it to Endeavor. Endeavor has to only verify that he has got all the 9 digits. Order is not important here. So now he may say, okay, think of a subsquare. He may say, okay, I want the middle subsquare. Then again, he will just pick up those slips from the middle subsquares, flip it and show it to him. Okay, of course, randomize. And then Endeavor verifies. So if you do this a few times, Endeavor will be convinced that Karan has solved the problem, Sudoku. But Endeavor will not know the solution at all. Okay. So this is what is called zero knowledge protocol. And I don't know if anybody's going to talk. This is going to be the fundamental basis for tomorrow's election system. Because we may have to, vote online. Okay. So how does Election Commission prove to me that it has recorded my vote correctly? Now already you have a lot of chaos with the EVMs. But if you go to internet domain for voting, there will be more questions. So at every stage, the commission has to prove to me that you have done it right. And in a sense that when you communicate, suppose I'm trying to, commission trying to prove that they have recorded my vote correctly, it's going through a communication, Endeavor can see my communication. Endeavor will not get any information about what is my vote. But I will be satisfied that yes, my vote is recorded. So zero knowledge is going to play a very important role in this e-voting. Okay, maybe I stop here and I can take a few questions. Otherwise, you are free to send me emails and I answer to all my emails. It may take a day or two, but I will answer all emails. But depending on Sakshi's time thing, I can take 1 or 2 questions, Sakshi.
Sure, sir, sure.
Yeah,
Participants, please raise hand if you need to ask any question so that we can unmute and you ask directly. Is there any question?
See, this is the problem with online. In this question
Yes,
answer becomes very inconvenient. So anyway, so I leave it to them.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I get it.
Good morning, sir. This is Devjit calling from Kolkata.
Okay.
Sir, you said that you have 2 nieces and who wants 2 identical pens, right?
Yes.
And sir, suppose if the identicality is proved in terms of the color, and suppose you are blind, is it possible, sir, in that case?
Yes. Everything. You just think
Can
of
you cite an example, sir?
Yeah. You just think of my story.
Sir, you said that one side is your spectacle and one side is the pen, sir.
No, this could be the same pen. They have a different color. Same thing. Same game will do. Just think about it. Exactly the same game will do. You just take the 2 articles in your hand. and just take it back, flip it and show it. Something will work. You just think about it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sure. Okay.
We next have Akash. Mr. Akash, please unmute.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sir, in one of the story you told that there is a method in which we use statistics, means probability, and there are the chances of some error. So I
Yes.
would like to ask that how we can reduce that kind of errors. How we can
Yes.
reduce that?
No, so actually, so that will involve. I don't know how much test you have studied. See, when I was trying to estimate the number of people taking alcohol, because I'm going through a probability. Say in every case, when I say do statistics, there is a chance of error. But we have also a method of estimating the error. And in case the error comes out to be high, we don't adopt this method. That means my method is wrong. So also you have to prove that the error is within some control. And in statistics, we don't allow more than 5% error.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
We
you.
have
Thank
a
you.
method of computing the error.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Participants, if you have any question, you can also write in the chat.
Also, they can send me email. I respond. You can pass on my email to them.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So I respond within a day or two.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. This was really a wonderful talk, and thank you for explaining things so well by taking your stories. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you. So I can leave now. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. We have Dr. P.K. Saxena already joined with us. I would
Okay.
like to ask Dr. Karan, sir, so shall we take up a 10 minutes break here or continue with the first session?
सर से पूछो एक बार Lobial sir is there and PK sir is there.
Dr. P.K. Saxena, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir. Morning.
Karan Singh sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, so we can start after 10 minutes.
Start with 5 minute
break. Sir, we can take 5 minute break.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. So we can start at 11:05. Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay. I request everyone to please join again at 11:05 for the first session. Thank you.
Okay, good. How to share my presentation?
Sir, there is an option share screen.
Yes, I will press that then.
Sir, you'll be having the screens. Which screen you would like to share?
So shall we try?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Share a screen. Then select a window or an application that you want to share. Clip.
Yes, I can hear your screen.
Sir, your that Zoom screen has been shared.
Just
how do I open my file which I want to share?
Just you don't just your.
Sir.
Okay, so I think I can go to.
First, you I think open your presentation, then share the screen.
Sir has shared the desktop, I think, so he
Okay,
can
yeah,
open.
but yeah, he can open now.
It is visible, sir.
This is okay?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
This is okay now.
Okay, if I want to do stop, then I will press this stop share.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So we will start after 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so shall I start now?
I think it's actually you can start.
Okay, sir. Welcome back. We are ready for the first session to begin, and for that, I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. P.K. Saxena as our speaker of this session. I would be delighted to give a brief introduction of our speaker. I request the host and co-host to kindly mute all participants. Thank you. Okay, I would be delighted to give a brief introduction of our speaker. Dr. P.K. Saxena, you have been an outstanding scientist and director of one of the premier laboratories of DRDO, Scientific Analysis Group, engaged in R&D in the area of cryptology and secure communication for more than 50 years. You completed your MSc in Mathematics from Kanpur University and PhD in Algebra from Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. Thereafter, you worked as mathematics lecturer for 3 years in Regional Engineering College, now known as NIT Silchar, and National Defence Academy, Pune. You have joined Scientific Analysis Group, DRDO, in 1981 as Scientist C and became Scientist G in 2002. You were appointed as Director of SAG in May 2003 and headed the lab till your superannuation in July 2014. You became an outstanding scientist, Scientist H. In 2009, you held additional charges of Director Security for Midcap House Complex of DRDO and Chief Information Security Officer for DRDO for more than 3 years. Your areas of interest include algebra, cryptology, fuzzy logic, artificial neural networks, information security, and speech technology. You have published 65 research papers in national and international journals and conference proceedings, and have been project leader for some important research and development projects of DRDO. You received commendation certificate for your significant contributions in the area of fuzzy logic. You have been chairman, member of several government committees for review of government-funded projects and for evolving policies, procedures related to information security and cryptology. You are chairman of Working Group on Technology Development in Regional Languages, CDIL, under DATI. You are chairman of the advisory board and member of the governing council of SET Chennai, which is an organization supported by Office of the PSA and engaged in R&D activities in the area of cryptology and cybersecurity. Presently, you are working as a scientific consultant and advising principal scientific advisor, PSA, to Government of India on matters related to cybersecurity. We are honored to have you joined here, sir. I request you to proceed for your session. Hello. So please unmute. Sir, please unmute. We are unable to listen.
हेलो
Hello.
हाँ सर, अनम्यूट कर लीजिए सर, आपका स्पीकर ऑन वो नहीं है, म्यूट।
नीचे म्यूट अनम्यूट का ऑप्शन होगा सर, लेफ्ट में। हाँ, करण सिंह यहाँ से होस्ट से नहीं हो सकता है?
मैं कर रहा हूँ, हो नहीं रहा मेरे से।
अच्छा,
सर को ही हाथ से करना पड़ेगा, अगर मोबाइल है और कंप्यूटर है तो उस पर क्लिक आ रहा होगा।
रेड कलर का माइक बना हुआ है, उस पे क्लिक कर।
लेफ्ट साइड पर देयर इज एन आइकन कॉल अनम्यूट, आप उसको करिए। रेड कलर का आइकन है लेफ्ट साइड पर।
हाँ वो कर रहे हैं, बात कर रहे हैं.
हेलो हेलो.
Yes, sir.
हाँ हाँ, मैंने अभी कॉल किया सर को, उनसे फिर से लॉगिन करने के लिए बोला है कि बोला हुआ है. ठीक है.
Okay, sir. Okay.
हाँ, वो शायद कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, वो कह रहे हैं कोई सिंबल नहीं आ रहा है स्क्रीन पे.
Okay, sir. I request the participants to kindly wait for a few minutes so that our speaker may join us again. Thank you.
हाँ सर, अभी ठीक है. हेलो.
Yes, sir.
Now it is okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you see the screen, my slides?
No, sir. Not yet. So your screen is shared. Please open the presentation.
This is okay now?
हाँ,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, now can you see the screen and hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's absolutely fine.
Okay, I think there is some problem because I am using this Zoom for the first time. I have been using Microsoft and Google Team and others, so there is some issue. Anyway, so good morning, everybody, and this inconvenience in opening this file and all that. I think we will bear with it because it is a technology. Sometimes there are some hitches. Ultimately, I think this screen is visible to everybody, and I am audible to everybody. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Or shall I
Yes, sir. Yes,
start?
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Karan Singh and the organizer of this workshop for giving me this opportunity to talk to the faculty members, students, and the other participants uh, on this in this workshop. And as this is the first talk, I would like to give an overview of cryptology so that the platform is set for detailed discussions and presentations on various aspects of cryptology in the coming 4-5 days. I was listening to Professor Bimal Rai for 10-15 minutes before the end, and he was explaining about zero knowledge proof and other concepts. And those are the things which are used in many applications these days. So what I would like to talk about is maybe mainly I will talk about the part and a little bit on cryptanalysis part because this talk is on cryptology, which actually is having mainly two parts, cryptography and cryptanalysis. And these cryptology, in fact, these days, it's not just the encryption and decryption of the messages to hide the information or camouflage the information, but it also includes many other aspects of secure communication, such as authentication and integrity of messages and other things. So, because in securing communication, it is not that we have to secure the contents, but actually we have to secure the whole of the communication, right from the start of the message to encrypting to exchanging between two persons and all. So some aspects of this may come in between, but mainly our focus will be on cryptography and some part of the cryptanalysis. Now, if we before we start with, let's look at the history. In fact, this cryptography by this name, it started around 4000 BC. Now, it was not called cryptography, but that word came later. But it was a kind of secret writing which goes back to 4000 BC, as some evidence found when some earthen tablets were found during excavation, and some messages were found written on them. But actually, the mathematical development in this area started in 16th and 17th century in different parts of the world. And Caesar cipher was actually the first cipher by the name, known by the name, which was used for military purposes. In today's terminology, it's a very simple encryption method where a letter is replaced by a third letter in the alphabet, just replacing one letter by the third, or after a gap of 3, and change the message. But at that time, this was thought to be a very ingenious idea, and this was used for short messages, secure communication in military. And when the systematic developments in this subject started, then initially the people devised very crude ways in which some ways in which the information was distorted in the form that it is not actually readable ordinarily. So examples like somewhere the alphabets, in the alphabets, the vowels were dropped in the message, and some people just used first 14 characters, and rest other 14 characters were dropped with some mapping so that the message could be reconstructed. So messages were transformed in such a manner that it was not obvious for the reader to make out that how what the changes have been done. But then the need came that there should be some systems which should do this automatically through machines and all. And then the concept of this mechanical systems came. These systems look like some typewriter kind of a thing. And if you press a key, then the letter which will be typed back like in the typewriter, that will be encryption of that letter. And there will be some rotors and some other mechanical arrangements where this change would happen. Then came that instead of just mechanical, some electromechanical machines came, and which followed by purely electronics machine, and that followed by hard machines and today's advanced encryption systems. which are totally dedicated hardware-based and software-based systems. Software implemented in dedicated hardware known as crypto systems and all. So developments have happened since 4000 BC to present day, where we now talk about quantum era and then post-quantum cryptography and all. So we will look at these developments a little more thing, like stream ciphers, block ciphers, public key crypto systems, bulk encryption systems, and concepts like mathematical principles and one-way functions, which are basic pillars for present-day crypto systems. So if we look back this revolution which happened in cryptography, it actually happened in 3 stages. The first stage was that rotors. So as I told that these mechanical systems and the electromechanical systems, they were based on some concept of a rotor. And then came the concept of these memories, where things were stored on these memories and systems were made where keys were stored in memories, algorithms were there, and encryption were happening. And present day, we talk about the revolution which happened, that is FPGA, field programming gate array, where algorithm can be written, revised, rewritten, modified, and all. So that flexibility is available. So routers were actually the wired disks. So a disk where all there were 26 points, and all 26 points were representing 26 alphabets, A, B, C, D up to Z. And they were so wired that with the press of a button, these rotors were rotating, controlled by some key. And so if there were 6 wheels, 6 rotors in a machine, that means the substitution was happening. That means the character was changed to another character by first rotor, then second rotor changed it further by another character, like that. So this change of a character was happening 6 times. So in today's terminology, we can say that there were 6 substitutions, one after the other, which were actually applied on this particular character one by one. And then there were some settings, initial settings to set up that how these rotors will actually move, because it was not the fixed motion, so that every time one uses the motion of rotor is different. So that was the concept there. And these control, which we were calling as plug settings and lug settings and all in those terminology were used. This is the picture of one of the machines where it has got 6 rotors, and this is a Hagelin machine 209. And this was thought to be unbreakable in those days, and it was used in Second World War very frequently. And but this concurrently, in fact, even this machine, without having the machine, the scientist and the group of code breakers, there was a group of 12 code breakers who worked on this, including Turing, and they broke this machine. That means they from the intercepts itself, they found the patterns, and they did the reverse of it, and finally they could decipher this machine completely. But this was not told to people, and the machine was used, and the intercepts were being broken. So this was a very, very so to say, challenging cryptanalysis, which was done during World War II itself. And when it comes to memories, then this era started in mostly in 1960s after this World War, when these machines, electro machines, were broken and people were not confident of using them. This, and by that time the computers has emerged the scene. So the concept that how this cryptography should be transformed in a form where it can be used using computers and microcontrollers, so that dedicated crypto machines can be made. So these systems were designed, and most of the time a dedicated machine with some memories and some EPROMs and controllers were created, where the concept was that there will be a center known as crypto center, and the messages will be brought there, and they will be converted into cryptogram using these machines offline, and the cryptograms which will be so generated will be actually sent to the destination through some couriers or through some other means. But that time, this online communication of encryption was not in practice. And then also the need of this encryption came, that it's not that the written messages should be communicated, but we should have, for our ease of communication, because speech is a very convenient mode of communication. So the speech security systems also came into existence, where the it was not the alphabets, but the whole of the speech treated as a signal was actually encrypted. And in this also different concepts came when it came to speech secrecy. That one was that the speech signal treated as a time waveform, or just as a waveform in time domain, time and amplitude, and you cut it and you permute it. And by permuting, that means the segments of speech, a continuous speech, they are broken into different parts, and they are being reshuffled. So when you play back this reshuffled speech, it was unaudible, but that was also easy to analyze and break. So the concept of digital speech secrecy system also came, and I will come to this part later part in this, where these days when we talk about modern crypto systems, in fact we don't discriminate whether it is a text, a speech, fax, or photograph or video, whatever it is. So all these separate concepts which were existing, that some method for separate method for encrypting text files, and some separate technology for encrypting speech, and all those things were which were separate, but they have now all been combined in a uniform communication mechanism which is existing these days. So these developments happened. The third revolution, as I talked about, was that reconfigurability, where the algorithm can be reconfigured, the whole encryption system, the complete crypto system can be reconfigured. The same crypto system can be customized for different users. The total hardware may remain same, but the algorithm and other methods like key generation and the permutations, initial permutations and post processing, all those things can be reconfigured on in the system itself, because they are all residing on some FPGA, which are by definition reconfigurable. And then some other concepts where hybrid packaging and other thing came into existence. So this was the reconfigurability was the third revolution. which has happened. Now, this fourth revolution, which is now we are looking for, is in terms of this quantum technologies. And in case of this quantum technologies come to a stage. At present, what we are thinking about this quantum technologies is that quantum computer and communication. These two aspects are being focused. So the quantum communication itself may take care of the confidentiality rather than having the crypto algorithms which are unbreakable with the quantum computers, which we see that they are emerging. So we have to work on two directions, that the new crypto algorithms which are vulnerable to present day computer, unbreakable in present day computers, but may become vulnerable when these quantum computers come. So what kind of new cryptography should be there? And apart from that, what kind of communication we should have, this quantum communication, where it may serve both the purpose, that high speed communication as well as secrecy. So in this quantum communication, it is thought that even the interception, if somebody tries to intercept the information, that will be identified, and it will not be that channel will be broken, and one will be able to know that somebody is trying to intercept. So making the interception identifiable and communicating it in a secure manner, and communicating it fast. So all these three objectives are being looked at when we talk about quantum cryptography these days. So with this background of revolutions and various stages of development in this area of cryptography, if we look at the philosophy and general concept in cryptography, is that here we want to transform messages into ciphers. So depending upon the set of alphabets which we use, in fact, we have a message space, and then when we convert, then ciphers, so we have a cipher space. And so this encryption and is actually a transformation, some transformation from this space to this space. And this transformation is in such a manner that it is masking, randomized masking kind of a thing, where demasking is extremely hard. And for the people who don't have other information, but it should be demasking should be easy for people who have some additional information like key or some other trapdoor information. So this is the basic objective in the cryptology. And the basic objective in cryptanalysis is the reverse. That is, we have to find out this transformation from cipher space to message space. But here the constant is that demasking is required without access to key or the trapdoor information, because these things will not be available. If it is available, it's not a cryptanalysis, it is just deciphering. So these two things can be done, that reverse, finding out the reverse transformation can be done at two levels. One is that message level itself, where somebody is given a message, the cryptogram is available. He doesn't know the transformation. He doesn't know the other thing, whether it coming from some machine or some what is the mechanism from how which this has been generated. But with some hit and trial and with some other study of tens of thousands of ciphers of that kind, maybe one is able to find out some pattern and is able to solve the message, particular message. So code breaking at message level. The other thing is that code breaking at system level. As I talked about this Hagelin machine 2009, which was broken, this German machine, so which was broken. So that was actually the cryptanalysis at system level, where the whole system was broken. So this cryptanalysis, in fact, whatever, whether we are able to do it at message level, and if it is a system level, I think all attempts are to be made. But if it is the breaking at system level, then naturally it helps, because it will help in deciphering or cryptanalyzing or breaking, code breaking of many other messages. So, but if we look at this cryptanalysis per se, then many times we feel that this has different connotation, different meaning. So for theoreticians, even if we are able to reduce the key space and searches, that is known as cryptanalysis. Say, for example, if my key space for a particular crypto system is 2 power 46, that is, one has to do 2 power 46 trials to arrive at the correct key. And if one is able to reduce it to 2 power 40 key searches, then it is thought that we have done the cryptanalysis and my key space is reduced. But as far as the practitioners are concerned, if that 2 power 40 is still beyond my reach of the computation power or the resources which I have, then it is not of much use for me. Of course, this example of 40 and 46, which I am giving, I mean, these are not the correct examples of the key sizes, because we can actually do on the systems
sir.
much higher key spaces.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Are you able to listen?
वॉइस आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ, आ रही है. हमारी वॉइस आ रही है?
और सी से शुरू कर रहे हैं.
Hello.
ये प्रोग्राम.
Are you able to listen me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We listen you.
Okay. Okay. So, this I was talking about this cryptographic objectives. So for practitioner, actually, it is that message should be broken, and it is not that key space just should be reduced to some number. But still, that reduction of key space to some number may help tomorrow to reduce it to a to the size which is manageable to our computers and all. So that research is not meaningless. It's useful, may not be today, but tomorrow. So achieving these cryptographic objectives, that how to secure messages, in fact, we work in discrete space. So some alphabets, like these ones, 0, 0, 1 is one alphabet set, binary set, or 26 alphabets, or 30, 32 alphabets, 26 plus some special symbols. So like that, we have to work in a discrete space if we want to transform this message. That is to be in fact represented in some alphabets. And what we desire is, if this small alphabet set is small, that is better. And the other requirement is that these transformations which I talk, they should be large enough. And this key, which will be actually representing these transformations, it should be conveniently planned so that the use is easy and deciphering, etc. is easy. So with these three constants, if we look at this, modular arithmetic keeps us within a finite set. So x equal to y mod something. So here, for example, if we have alphabet set 0 and 1, we work with mod 2. If our alphabet set is 26 character, we work with mod 26. So like that. And then it's not.
Hello, sir.
Alphabet.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Sir, you just mentioned all these things. I mean, all the objectives. Sir, just I have a question. Is the WhatsApp app uses all these things? I mean, because in WhatsApp you see the message is end-to-end encrypted. So does it takes all these permutations, reshuffling, sets, and transformation concepts?
Yeah, I will come to that when it comes to the analysis part. But as far as the encryption is concerned, we have to represent the information in terms of some symbols, which we call it alphabets. And then we have to think of some transformations. So permutations may be one transformation. Okay. So just permutation will transform the information. And when it is alphabet set like two symbols 0, 1, then we talk about these finite fields and groups where the n tuple or a number of alphabets 0 and 1s, that tuple itself becomes one symbol. Okay, so if I talk about finite field of some order 2 power 256, that means we are talking about actually the alphabet, which will be 256 character as one symbol. That will be one alphabet. So there are different ways in which we work and decide about this transformation. But this field and structure and group structure and ring structure, they provide us a finite set. So if finite, I'm here within a group and ring and field means we are considering only finite. And there are operations here, multiplication and addition operation, which keep us within that. So that means the cipher and alphabet, the plain information and encrypted information, they are represented in the same alphabets. And it is difficult. I mean, the method will ensure that it is difficult to rearrange and find out the plain information from the cipher information. So permutation is one such transformation in some cases, and in other cases, these permutations are also used apart from some other transformations to make it a little more difficult, like in DES crypto system. There are some permutations, then there are some other operations, a series of operations which are applied. So
Hello, sir.
One has to represent the information in terms of symbols and do some replacement or reshuffle, which are permutations, and then some other transformations. So basically, replace and reshuffle, these play a significant role in encrypting the information.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, just have a question. Is the hash algorithm works in taking all these objectives?
Yeah, let us see that some of the objectives, how they are made. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay.
subsequent presentation, you will come to know.
Okay.
So in fact, in this cryptography, there are some other things like compression, expansion, and substitution, transformations. Some of these concepts are also used in while we do these transformations. So codes, in fact, are where alphabet set is different. Like the information is in our alphabets A to Z, whereas the cipher alphabets are some numbers. So it's not necessary that always the cipher will have the same alphabets as the plain information is having, like this coding. So codes have been used very frequently. Even these days, in some of the applications, these codes are used. And just as securing the information. So for example, here, this encoded message will look like a sequence of numbers. Okay. So many coding methods exist, and there will be a lookup table which will decide that how this plain information will be converted into codes. But here the key or the trapdoor is the lookup table. But these codes are not simply for the encryption purpose. They are also to facilitate the encryption when we try to use higher mathematics and when we want to represent alphabets in terms of some binary symbols. So for example, this ASCII code. So in our computers, when this character A is in fact represented by this binary code, and in hexadecimal representation is represented by 41. In decimal, it is 65. So there are various ways in which these 26 alphabets can be represented. Now I can have some crypto system when I transform these characters into decimals and work on this, have some transformations here, or I represent in hex, or I represent in binary form, and then do some transformation when I am in binary domain. So these codes, some of these codes, they help us in representing the plain information in a domain where I am comfortable and I have some message, some method to complex method to transform the information into cipher. So as I told that these permutations and are first steps which were thought, and even these days they are still playing a significant role in encrypting the information. So the role of permutation can be, if we just look at the initial encryption methods, these permutations were used in two forms. One was which we were calling as substitution ciphers, and other which we were calling as transposition ciphers. So let's see that what is this permutation, and I think I will take the next slide first. Yeah. So I was talking about this permutation, which is just a simple substitution system. So as I talked about the history, that Caesar cipher was actually a simple substitution method where a permutation was the key, and this permutation was nothing but a shift by 3 to a letter. Like A was replaced by D, B was replaced by E, C was replaced by F, D by G, E by H, and so on. So the plain text like Amrita becomes DPU, LWD when there is a shift of 3. If we represent this mathematically, it is in fact the modular equation like y equal to x plus 3 mod 26. So this is a simple thing, modular equation as a key, or this permutation which I have written here as a key. So substitution has a permutation on the alphabet set, that is basic alphabet set. And some other examples of this substitution where this permutation is not simply the shift of 3, but governed by the equation which is known as affine transformation, like y equal to ax plus b mod 26, where GCD of a and 26 is 1, to make the ciphering and deciphering unique. So that's why this restriction is required. Otherwise, there will be problem in deciphering. It will not be 1-to-1. So this is another example and slight modified form of that Caesar cipher. And so here permutation is this is the permutation. 0 goes to 5, 1 goes to 8, 2 goes to 11, and so on. Then instead of this, we can have some general substitution where we will have alphabet set, and this alphabet set 26, this will be transformed into some other random permutation and apply that random permutation to transform the message. So here the total possible keys will be 26 factorial, because total number of permutations of this 26 alphabets will be 26 factorial. So now this simple substitution cipher, it seems that the key size is very, very huge. 10 power 23 is a very big number. But since alphabets have a set pattern of the occurrence of letters, so these are simple substitution can be broken simply by study of the frequency of the alphabets, because the transformed alphabets will have also the same frequency pattern, a similar frequency pattern which the plain alphabets, the A and A to Z have. So very easily broken, look like simple. So these days, these permutations are used as a precursor or pre-formatting kind of a thing. And in some other form, of course, different forms they are used. So this is polyalphabetic Begness cipher. I'm not going into detail, but here, in fact, instead of using one permutation for encryption, there are 26 permutation. Each row is a permutation of 26 letters. So there are 26 rows, which are 26 permutation. So for first permutation, maybe this row is used for encryption. For second letter in the plain text, maybe this row is chosen and encryption happens. So like that, different rows are chosen based on the key for encrypting a plain text. So in this case, the frequency pattern is in fact disturbed, and so simple attacks which are applicable on simple substitution will not be available here, because you can see that in this particular case, the E has changed to A, but here D has changed to A. So the same letter is not transforming to the same letter. So the frequency pattern in cryptogram will not be similar to what we have in plain text, which was helping us to break the simple substitution cipher. So this Playfair cipher was also used very frequently in this World War I and II. This provided more secrecy, but these days these are all broken easily. The other form of use of this permutation is in fact known as this is Playfair, I can skip, which is a column transposition kind of a thing. So here the total message is written in terms of a matrix, like I have written here, this is transposition. And then these the columns are chosen and reshuffled based on some key. So for example, here 35214 is the key which I have taken, and this is the message which is written in this matrix form, 4 cross 5, and then this third column is chosen first. So this is IROO, and then fifth column is chosen INIX, and then the second column is chosen. So like that. So this becomes the cryptogram. Now, if you look at this cryptogram, this is not a substitution, like T is not substituted by I, H is not substituted by R, but still this is using a permutation. So what it is doing, it is actually permuting the characters as they are appearing in the message. It is not permuting the alphabets and substituting. It is permuting the block itself. So this is also an example where this permutation is used, and this is different from the simple substitution cipher. So permutations were used in different form in World War II, World War I and World War II. As I was telling that these electro machines and electro mechanical machines, they all had the concept of rotors, and rotors were nothing but the permutations, but being rotated at different rotations to bring in the variability in the substitution. Then to bring in more complexity, in fact, it was not just a single character, but take some 2 characters at a time, like Playfair cipher, where 2 characters are taken as a group, and this is encrypted, not single A and M separately. So in this example, there is some rule, row rule, column rule, and diagonal rule, where this substitution is done. So A and M, A is coming here and M is coming here. So AM was actually replaced by BI. So diagonal, this AM is replaced by BI. So this is the encryption of AM. Similarly, this RI. So RI means R is here and I is here. So RI is replaced by TQ. So like that. And if letter is coming in the same row, then subsequent letters will be changed. Like that, BE. B is coming here, E is coming here. So BE is replaced by C and A. So CE and A. So there are three rules. So this is actually the substitution of two characters at a time. So if we look at key wise, then how many pairs are there? 26 cross 26 pairs are there. Okay, so 26 cross 26 factorial is the key size for this. So key size looks so large, but still these can be broken. So there were several such methods where polygraph and trigraphs, they were substituted, and these systems came in up to use late 60s, up to 60s or so, till the modern systems came into. There was other concept, mathematical concept, which was used in transforming or in encryption, which is based on the vector spaces. So like message is treated or transformed, and it is treated as an element of some vector space, and some linear transform is used from this vector space V to B, and the message is represented by an element of this vector space, and this transformation is used so that C becomes transform of M, and that will again be a vector in B, because V transform is from vector space V to vector space. One such operation is that M into K. So K is the this transform can be represented in terms of a matrix. So matrix multiplication, and this matrix into K gives you this C, and inverse of K, if we multiply with C, we will get back M. This is an example of Hill cipher known by Hill cipher. This was also very frequently used in this World War II. And here, in fact, the choice of this K is to be made in such a fashion that inverse of this K exists, because all transformations may not be invertible. So that restriction is there, and these messages, these matrices as a key are actually shared by the user beforehand. So this cryptography, present-day cryptography, we talked about, because so far we talked about the conventional things and all that. But present-day cryptography is divided into symmetric key and asymmetric key crypto systems. We will listen here. Symmetric key means the same key or similar key is used, and here a pair of keys is used for encryption and decryption. Another classification we do these days, we call it modern ciphers, like stream ciphers and block ciphers. So different ways of classification, but just to understand the terminology. So there are some examples of these modern ciphers, like these are the stream ciphers, block ciphers, and these days mostly the systems are based on stream ciphers and block ciphers, some SP networks and all. As I told that these finite field and binary sequences, they play a significant role in modern day crypto system, because these information can be, whether it is a text or a speech or fax or whatever it is, in our computer modern communication and computer digital systems, all this information is represented in terms of zeros and ones, and then group of zeros and ones. So a group of say 64 zeros and ones, this gives us an element in this field with 64 elements, and in this field there are some operations available. So where this group of 64 will be transformed into another group of 64, which will be its encrypted, the transformed form or encrypted form. And these binary sequences play a significant role in actually encrypting the information. So the whole thing is that these finite fields and all, they keep us within a discrete space, and everything is available there in that field. That element, plain element of the plain information and element of the cipher information, both are available in the finite field, but it is difficult, or it's not possible to find out which element is the encryption of which element. So that is the beauty of these transformations. So as I've told that these binary sequences, they play a significant role. So let's look at this example. So this plain message, suppose I use this 5-bit coding. So I is represented by this 5 0 1 1 0 0, NY 0 0 1 1 0, DY this thing. So the information has been converted into bits, and group of bits are taken in which this is represented. And this key sequence, a binary key sequence, is like this, and we XOR them one by one. 0 1 is 1, 1 0 is 1, 1 1 is 0, like that. And this becomes my cipher, and again regroup and convert it into the characters if you like. So this I and DIA is now encrypted into K, D, K, and J. Okay, so this is XOR, which provides us a near secrecy if my this key is never repeating and it is random. Okay, so this never repeating and random is a very tough constraint. Whether we can meet it in practical scenario is a difficult thing. That's why we say that it is a near perfect secrecy, not perfect secrecy. So this is realized in terms of stream cipher. That is the concept in stream cipher, that the encrypted individual bits and bytes will be in fact encrypted bit by bit, and mostly this is being used these days in our crypto system. So the concept, if we look at in the pictorial form, the concept of the stream cipher is like this, that a plain message, whether it is speech or text or fax or video or our PDF file, whatever it is, ultimately it is represented in terms of bits. So that bits comes here, that is digital coding. So different ways in which this information can be converted into bits depending upon the message. And once it is in terms of bits, then these these bits can be XORed with the key sequence, and key sequence will be generated by some good generator, and by XORing we will get the cipher bit C. So here the encryption method is just bit by bit addition, and that's all. So there is nothing much complication in the encryption, that is just XOR. But it is a highly non-linear function, and this simple operation provides a very high level of secrecy, because it is the role of this key sequence generator which is important. Nothing more is important, because ultimately these codings, there will be some n number of schemes for this coding. One would know, one can try PCM first, CBSD, and all this. But ultimately guessing this should be hard. So there are certain methods in which these key sequences are generated. I think details you will learn in this, but the simple concept of linear congruence generator, linear feedback shift generator, which is the basic pillar for generating these sequence. So there is some feedback function. So bits are represented by n tuple, and with some function they are shifting, and next is being generated. So there are some concept of primitive polynomial to represent this and all. I think details will be discussed when you come to but the whole thing is that this linear feedback shift register as one component and then combining different linear feedback shift registers through some non-linear combining functions to make it a little more difficult to predict the sequences and all. So different concepts like non-linear feedback shift register and all have been developed, and they are being used in encrypting the information. So in this ciphers, hello.
Yes, sir. Please proceed. Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay, so these concepts, I think there are some desirable properties of these stream ciphers which go on, and I just want to check what is the time limit.
Sir, it is scheduled till 12:30.
Okay, okay, so I will stop 20 and then maybe 10 minutes for lecture.
Sure.
So there are some desirable properties of the stream ciphers that it should be difficult to predict and all, and details may be discussed in this. So to check that whether these binary sequences are complex enough, a generator is complex enough to be predicted. So there are different types of complexities which have been defined. Linear complexity of binary sequences, and then we also talk about quadratic complexity of linear sequences, maximum order complexity, k-error linear complexity. So these are the concepts which decide or which give us an idea that how complex my key generator is. And the complex the key generator is, the complex or the difficult, it's more difficult the decryption part or decryption of the crypto system is. So while deciding about these generators, one has to look at these kind of complexities, or when one is evaluating a crypto system, whether it is good or bad, one has to see that these parameters and judge the generator. Because as I've told that the encryption is just XOR. The strength actually lies in this key sequence generator. Now, apart from the mathematics of generator, it is actually also that how it is actually implemented in the hardware, because sometimes the attack may happen through hardware also. So again, the same properties I have listed here, that the generator should be such that it may be difficult to distinguish the key stream from the random sequence. That is, it is close to random sequence while we are predicting. So I think this one, the people who are designing the crypto system, they have to worry about it. Now, on stream ciphers, there are different types of cryptanalytic attacks which come into. And when it comes to cryptanalysis, actually one can target the crypto algorithm itself, or one can target implementation of the algorithm, whether which is faithfully implemented or implemented in a secure manner, or some may target the protocol where the key is drawn from memory and it is being used in encryption and all, and where it is some weakness in key management. So actually cryptanalytic attacks simply do not focus on the cipher or the algorithm itself. They focus on many other aspects also during cryptanalysis. But when it comes to attack on the algorithm itself, there are n number of attacks these days which have been studied on stream ciphers. I have listed here correlation attack, inversion attack, time memory trade-off, coding based, linear consistency and all. So the game goes on. Some system is designed and some new attack is found out, and then it is tested whether the system is vulnerable attack against that attack or not. So this was about the stream ciphers and kind of attacks which are available and which are coming up in stream ciphers. The another concept classification is this block cipher. So in block cipher, in fact, it is not the single bit or group which is encrypted bit by bit like in a stream cipher. It was XOR bit by bit, or in substitution, it was just one character was replaced by another character. Here, what happens is a block of bits is actually this behaves like a single entity, and that is transformed into another block of same size. So that since a block of bits is chosen, so it is known as block cipher. Encryption happens block wise and not bit wise. That's the only difference. But ultimately, it can be looked at that 64-bit plane has been replaced by 64-bit. So in that term, that's it's that 64-bit alphabet has been replaced by 64 alphabet. So here, as I told that these days these blocks can be 64-bit, 128-bit, 256 bits block, and so on and so forth. We talk about AES these days. Let's say, sorry, this DES with the different sizes, and here the key length will be of the same size. So again, this DES, triple DES, and all that, which are examples of this block size, block ciphers. I think these will be discussed in detail. And as I have told that, it's the algorithm, mostly in all these algorithms, these permutations also play a big role. Like in DES, the first permutation is applied, then it is divided into different blocks, then they shuffled, and then they XORed with the key blocks and all. That diagram I am not showing for Dash, but this will be definitely discussed in your subsequent thing. So in this block cipher, there are different types of attacks like linear attack, differential attack, higher order differential attack, structural cryptanalysis, algebraic attacks. All these things are being studied, and most of the time we see that whether this is vulnerable, and what is the vulnerability actually means that if that vulnerability is to the level where I can get the meaningful cryptanalysis rather than superficial of finding out, reducing the key space to a size which is not manageable, which are not useful for me, then as a crypto user, or it may not bother much to me if I want to use particular crypto system. So these days, this AES is the standard. DES is a slightly outdated thing, and we talk about AES system these days, which is being used. So then the concept of this public key cryptography comes in. So here, as we see that this concept of public key crypto system actually came in 1976. It was proposed by Diffie-Hellman, and this here, in fact, this concept is dependent on some hard mathematical problem where this one-way computation is easy, whereas the reverse of that computation is difficult. So some such mathematical hard problems are the basis for this public key cryptography, like this multiplication and factorization of primes, and elliptic curve, and exponentiation kind of a thing. So this is the concept where systems like RSA, LGML, Revin, these systems were proposed based on different kind of a hardness of this mathematics. So here, in fact, there is the concept has that there will be a pair of keys. It will not be a single key like in symmetric key or private key encryption, symmetric key encryption system. So there is a pair of keys, and one of these keys is used for encryption, whereas the other key is used for decryption. So, but G and H, they will be related by some mathematical computation in such a fashion that one is not derivable from the other unless you have some other information. and there will be some encryption algorithm, how to encipher and how to decipher and how to key. So one key from the other is difficult or in practice impossible to derive. So like in RSA crypto system, you have a number n, which is a product of P and Q, and P is a prime and Q is a prime. So these are large primes, and it is well known that if n size is very large, then finding out P and Q given n is a difficult, very hard problem, whereas multiplying P and Q and getting n is easy. So this was the property. This property was used by Reves, Shamir, and Edelman to devise this crypto system, RSA crypto system. And here the encryption and decryption keys, they are related by this formula that EA and DA is 1 mod phi n. So this was the one is the encryption key and is the decryption key, and the encryption method is that the message is raised to power of encryption key modulo n. This gives a cipher, and decryption is that cipher is raised to decryption key, and that will cancel the effect, and ultimately we will get m. So this is the simple looking mathematics, but actually these sizes of E and D and M and C are much large. So actually this computation, this involves a lot of computation, and always this concern remains whether the encryption using RSA can be done online in fractions of second with desired length of keys. If we take a small size of keys, there is no problem on time in computation and time in encryption and decryption. But if we want secrecy, then this Q should be much larger. P and Q should be much larger. Say like these days we say that n should be 0 to 4 bits. That is 1024. P should be 1024, Q should be 1024 bits. So such a large size computation takes time. That's why it is find convenient that stream cipher are used for encryption, where we want that time online encryption without losing time. Whereas these public key crypto systems are used for some other methods like key exchange and other things. So this same example working out, Diffie-Hellman key exchange problem was proposed by Diffie. I'm sure that this will be discussed in details in your talk. So different kind of mathematics is used, large integer. I think there is a talk on use of mathematics in encryption that will also, I think, be discussed. There are, for cryptanalysis, there are other mathematics like fuzzy logic, artificial neural net, genetic algorithm, pattern recognition, so all these things are actually help in the cryptanalysis. So there are so many challenges in public key crypto system, and because of these challenges, in fact, the key sizes proposed are much higher these days. So I think designers' consideration and all these things, I think, are not that much relevant to this group, because these are for designers and all. And so the conclusion is that cryptology is primarily a branch of applied mathematics, but it's not linked to that. It is equally a part of computer science when it comes to computations and complexity. It is also a part of electronics, since the algorithms are to be embedded in hardware effectively. And it also involves communication theory, since most of the systems are to be online. So in these days, as I was telling, that the connotation or definition or the parameters of cryptography and cryptology are not very firm, and many things are within that and overlapping. And I did not talk about these hash functions, cryptographic hash functions. I am sure these will be discussed, but they are also part of your present day cryptography. And at the end, as I may comment once again on the future of this, which depends on the turn of events or developments and quantum techniques. And here, this encryption methods may drastically change with the quantum emergence of quantum computers, and this communication may also change drastically. The concept of software-defined radio, where we don't use fixed algorithm on fixed channel, it depends on selection of the message. So for one message, one particular algorithm, one particular key size, one particular transformation protocol may be used. On the same system, another message may be encrypted by different combinations. So all these concepts are existing. This complexity of the system designing, where all these combinations are being put it in such a manner that the interception becomes difficult. If intercepted, then identification is difficult, whether it is a text communication, a speech communication, fax communication. Even if one is able to make out what is this, then that combination of techniques makes it difficult to decipher. And once the deciphering happens, this decoding from symbols to the alphabets of plain information, because there are n number of ways in which this plain alphabets would have been coded into bits exist. So there are so much of complex situations, and this game is on for between cryptographers and cryptanalysts. So with this I end, and any other questions if you have, then I am there to answer.
Thank you, sir. I request participants to please write your questions in the chat box or raise your hand in case you need to ask a question directly. So there's one question.
Okay.
Please tell the time complexity of RSA algorithm.
Say RSA algorithm, as these days, if we look at, we say that this initially in RSA, this 512 n, 12 bit size n was thought to be secure. Okay, so we were thinking that if n is of 512 size and p and q of half of that equal size, almost equal size, if they are chosen in that fashion, then it was thought to be safe for using it till 10 years back. But with this multiprocessors and supercomputers, this 512 was broken. I mean, the data is available. One can see the website, but in our lab, when we were able to break it into practically into 40 hours or 40 more, around 40 hours or so. So then it came that this is unsafe, so use 1024 size. Now the time estimate on net, you can see that how this DES, I have got full information and slides on that, so that how DES was broken and how what time these factorization took. So there were many groups who were working on this RSA challenge, breaking different numbers. And present information is, I think, 740 or something has been broken so far, but not beyond that. But still people feel that 1024 bit is not safe, because people might have succeeded in factoring 1024, but for strategic reasons, they might have not announced it. So it is proposed that if RSA is to be used, it should be used for 4048, not 1024. So that is the complexity and exact number of hours required for broken. I think that can be seen. That transparency I can't access because I have to close this. I have to open other material, but that data is available. That how much time it takes to factorize a significant, a particular number.
Okay, sir. So we have few more questions. A possible attack in RSA algorithm.
In RSA?
Yes, sir. Possible attack in RSA algorithm.
So in RSA algorithm, the main attack is that factorizing, because you see that one has to find out encryption key from decryption key, isn't it? So, and if you recall that encryption key and decryption key, they are related by the formula that E into D equal to 1 mod phi n. So that means one has to find out phi n first. Phi n is Euler's function for n. So if I know phi n, then from E I can find out D. There are some methods to find out inverse in these modular system. But phi n is important. Now phi n can be found if I know P and Q, because phi n will be P minus 1 into Q minus 1. That so P and Q, knowledge of P and Q is required to find out phi n. So that is the dependent upon, phi n is dependent upon P and Q, which are factors of n, which is difficult. So factoring n is the complexity.
Okay,
there is
sir.
no other direct attack. This is only through finding out E from D.
Okay, sir. We have next question. How fuzzy logic is useful? How fuzzy logic is useful?
Fuzzy logic. Okay.
Yes, sir.
In fact, this fuzzy logic was used for the purpose, different purposes in the cryptanalysis. Okay, so suppose you are given n number of cryptograms, and this n number of cryptograms are intercepted at some channel, but that channel is not
Line clipping
single
algorithm.
dedicated channel. It is actually intercepting the signals from different channels, different systems. So suppose I have got 100 messages intercepted. Now these 100 messages would have come from 5 systems. So fuzzy logic used to classify these 100 systems into say 4-5 classes. So each cipher is actually converted into some fuzzy features are extracted, and then fuzzy distance measures. And then I know that some prototypes for those 5 systems I have with me, which I have calculated a priori, and I will see that how this fuzzy set corresponding to the one particular cryptogram is close to one of these 5. And this closeness will tell me that this seems to be simple substitution cipher, this seems to be Playfair cipher, this looks like a Hill cipher, that kind of a thing. So classification, it's is one area in which this fuzzy logic is useful, and it was used practically. It was used to classify given cryptograms into different systems, so that subsequently you can take dedicated cryptanalytic attack on that system. Because if a message is given and you don't know from which system it has come, where you will start. So this first step where fuzzy logic helps in classifying the systems. It also helps in classifying whether it is encrypted speech or it is encrypted text. It also helps in identifying whether it is encrypted within a speech, whether it is PCM coded speech or it is CBSD coded speech. So decoding part also, once you decipher and reconstructing the speech, also needs to identify which coding it has used. So fuzzy logic used in identifying different types like identifying of coding, identifying of systems, and so on.
Okay, sir, there's one more question. Who are the key managers? Can user be the key manager?
No, it is not suggested that user should be the key manager. Key management should be done by some third party unknown to the user. Because you see that this key management is a very strong objective to provide the secrecy. And the first level of secrecy is in keys, because if key is leaked or key is not used in a manner that it should be used, then it will bring in the vulnerability. One is that leakage of key. Another is the strength of the key. Because if you have to, like I was telling that stream, this binary sequence, LFSR based and all that. Okay. Now a key manager will ensure that whatever desirable property in a key sequence should be, they are there. And only those keys will be released for use. Whereas a user, if he generates the keys, he may not be that expert in all that area because he is a user. He will not be technically that sound to ensure that he is using the key with proper strength. So it is always desirable that user should not have any involvement in the key generation, and keys should be generated and given by somebody. Say in case of online systems, when one key is used within the system, there are different levels of keys which are used these days. So a system in online communication, if something is to be used within the system, then of course user doesn't have control on that. The system, it is coded in the system in such a manner that it is generated in a useful manner, shared in a secret manner and all that. Okay, but it should not be left to the user.
Okay. So which algorithm, ECC or RSA, better in real-time applications?
Say these days, people say there are again some comparisons of key sizes. Okay, that some size of key of RSA is equivalent to some size of key for elliptic curve cryptographic purposes. Okay, so some equivalent in terms of complexity are there. And if you look at those numbers, then you will find that elliptic key cryptography requires less number of key size compared to RSA to provide the same level of secrecy. So it is felt that this elliptic key cryptography with those constraints of encryption time and usability and complexity, ECC is better as on date is thought than RSA. But again, it depends if somebody succeeds in finding out, solving that elliptic key complex, finding out ECC, that power, solving discrete log problem first, and finding out RSA factorization later, then maybe RSA would get an upper hand, because it depends whether we succeed in factorizing or we succeed in discrete log solving. Okay, but as it appears that ECC is better, and that's why this public key crypto system, CA and all that in banks, it is thought that these systems should use elliptic curve cryptography rather than RSA.
Okay, sir. I think this is the last question. Any practical applications of SHA-3 series?
Of?
SHA-3.
I didn't get the question.
Any practical applications of SHA-3 series?
SHA, SHA.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. You see that SHA is in fact a hash algorithm. Isn't it? The purpose of hash function is to transform some information, whatever it is. Okay. However length this information is, into some n number of bits. So that is, it is a transformation from arbitrary length messages to a fixed length message like 128. If it is a 128 bit hash, then it is 128. So, but then this property of this hash is that if you know this hash value 128 bits, if you know, you should not be able to find out the information which is represented by this hash function. Okay. So in our banking system, when we give our password or PIN number or whatever it is not actually the PIN number or password which is stored there. It is the hash of that number which is generated and which is stored. So next time when I enter my PIN or password, the hash is calculated and it is matched with that hash which is stored in the system. And if that hash matches, I am given the access. If that doesn't matches, I am not given access. So this is for authentication purposes, whether the user is the same who is intended or who should be. So this is the hash function is the banking system. It is very widely used for this purpose. And many other applications where this authentication is required, it is used. And I think in some of the talk you will find out the properties of these hash functions, that from if hash is given, you should not find out the previous one. If two informations are different, then hash should be different. There are three properties. I am not going into detail, but it actually helps in finding out the integrity. It is such that even a small change in the information will bring drastic change in the hash value. Okay, so that the information is not tempered. So if I have got some file, suppose I have got some file on my PC, and that PC is to be used by some other people also. So I want that my contents of my file should not be changed by anybody else. So, but this access to the system is available to him. So what I will do, I will actually find out this hash of my file and store it somewhere. And next time when I will come, I will open my file and calculate hash and see that whether somebody has tampered my file or not. So providing the secrecy to, or not secrecy in that sense, but that there is no change which has happened. Tampering has happened in the information that can be verified by these hash value. So SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-3, these are different versions of this hash algorithm. And since something is coming up, then analysis comes. People found that SHA-1 is vulnerable, and in some time, maybe two informations can code to the same hash. So SHA-3 is the latest version, which is thought to be much more robust than SHA-1. So this is SHA-3 is the latest algorithm which people try to use whenever they want to use it for authentication purposes or integrity purposes.
Okay, so we have serial number 091, Pragya Mishra. Ma'am, please, if you have any question, please unmute and ask. Okay, I think she is not able to. Ma'am, if you have any questions,
Hello.
please. And
Hello.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, I am able to, and I got my answer. You have asked this. I asked the are the key manager and user can be same. So I got
Okay.
the answer from the sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Sir,
you.
but one question is the designer and key managers are different, or the designer is can be key manager also?
No, actually, you see, when I am giving you answers that whether key user should be same,
Yes, yes.
and designer and all that, I am giving answer with that secrecy, the top level of secrecy which is desired. Say
Yes.
if I am using for simple purposes myself, I am communicating with my friend or something, this communication is not so important. You do whatever you like.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
But
yes.
the thing is that if we actually talk about keeping secrecy, then that is the thing we should have. Now, this question of who should design the system and who should design the key.
Key, yes.
Now, say the two entity entirely different. Okay, because it's not the simple thing that say if my requirement is that you give me binary sequence only, rest other things designer will take care. Then maybe this key sequence generator deciding about this maybe done outside. But it is not so simple when we talk about present day crypto systems because there are multi-level of keys involved. So this key management and key scheduling algorithm part of key designing is also important. So in actually there is another part of key scheduling algorithm. Okay, so they should not many times they may not be totally independent. Some requirements that what kind of keys and properties or what kind of bits I am looking for, which I will be implementing in my system hardware. That is to be a priori told to the key management uh, outside. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So some dialogue will be required between these two to finally design different levels of keys and hard code them into hardware and that security module of that crypto system. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yes, sir.
it depends on the type of crypto design and types of, because hardware requirement will be told by the designer to the key management center that this is my register size. So here I want to register bits at one particular instance up to these many bits. So some of such designing information is to be shared between these two while designing these two key management aspects and system designing aspects. So in some sense, they are independent, but some information is to be shared between them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The serial number 250. Please unmute. Okay, we next have serial number 239.
എടി ഞാൻ അൺമ്യൂട്ട് അല്ലായിരുന്നേ, ക്ലാസ്സിലുള്ളവരെല്ലാം എന്റെ കൂടെ സൗണ്ട് കേട്ട് ഈ പറഞ്ഞെടുത്ത്.
Hello. Okay, I think that's it, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. I request Dr. Karan Singh to extend vote of thanks to Dr.
Hello,
P.
sir. Hello.
Hello.
Sir, your presentation is very good, sir. On behalf of participants, I would like to ask you to please share your PPT so that we can make notes for a further reference, sir.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir. Thank you very much, sir. It was the wonderful talk. I think participant will benefit it and they clear their basics. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, all the best for future talks. I hope that all talks will be there as scheduled and we will get benefited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maximum possible extent. I have seen the schedule and we have chosen good speakers there. So I compliment you and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am leaving now.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
सर
All the best.
एक लिंक भेजूंगा मैं सर, उस पे क्लिक करना होगा सर, आपको बाद में भेज दूंगा.
हाँ, बाद में भेज दूंगा.
Yes, sir. Yes.
This we end with our first session, and here we have a break, and we'll begin with the next session sharply at 2. So I request everyone to join us again at 2 for the next session. Thank you.